Muses of Mythology is a spoiler-heavy podcast.
That's an understatement.
We're going to discuss not just the events of this book, but the Rhineverse as a whole, and really anything that we feel is relevant. You can find full spoiler warnings in the show notes. Hero, I'm going to need you not to do that. You hungry? Look, there's food right there. Eat your food. You can have... Oh, no, it's technically it's 8 o'clock, but Hero doesn't know about daylight savings. Oh, no, it's time to feed the cats, but it's not.
Peter doesn't know about daylight savings. It's only, what are you talking about? Even outside of daylight savings, it's 7 o'clock, Darien.
Yeah. No, it's almost 8 o'clock. Oh, shit. Okay, you're right. No,
it's 6 o'clock now.
I forgot that I hadn't changed my clock in my room. Then you're lying, Hero. You have no reason to be hungry yet. Okay, so what the point I'm trying to make is... Welcome to Muses of Mythology, a podcast where we explore how ancient myths become modern pop culture. This week, we continue our journey through Rick Riordan's Percy Jackson and the Olympians with Story 47, The Labyrinth. I'm your co-host and podcasting muse, Darien Smartt. Joining me is my co-host and brother, DJ.
How's everybody doing today? I am the muse of confusion. If you ever were writing something and then you got lost yourself, that's me at work.
You dick.
Yeah. I find it funny. I think it's hilarious when people are like, "Where the hell was I writing?" It's super funny.
Yeah. What? Give me. Okay. What? No. What do we do next? Get me back on track. It's.
We go for a tour.
Fantastic. Hey y'all, it's Darien, and I'm really excited to tell you about the organization we're donating to this month. As you know, every month we donate $1 for all the patrons we have over on Patreon to some organization that is working to create a net positive in the world. For November, we're donating to Safe Supplies, an organization that provides crucial transgender care products to individuals who do not have a safe way to access these life-saving products. Safe Supplies raises funds to donate new supplies, as well as facilitates the transfer of gently used products to a new home where these products will be greatly loved. A huge shout out to listener Kiara, who suggested this organization to us. We currently have 8 patrons over on Patreon, so we'll be donating an additional $20 out of pocket, making our total donation $28. You can learn more about Safe Supplies and get involved in the cause yourself by visiting the link down in our show notes. Thank you again to Kiara for recommending this amazing organization to us. If there's an organization you think we should donate to in the coming months, please don't hesitate to reach out. You can message us on Instagram and Twitter, send us an email to musesmythology@gmail.com, or fill out the form on our website at musesmythology.com. A big thank you to all of our patrons for making this donation possible. And now, on to the show. DJ?
What's up?
We are thoroughly turned around, you may have noticed, because today we're in the Labyrinth.
We are. Mm-hmm. Or we will be confused, and we will be in the Labyrinth.
Yes, we will be in a, let's say, corn maze labyrinth.
Corn maze.
Sure. Let's start the episode by checking in on seeing how future us are doing. Labyrinth log 1. I think we're doing pretty good. DJ's been leading, and his strategy of always turning left seems to be serving us well. DJ, what do you think?
No, we're pretty fucking lost. Yeah.
Loving the optimism.
No problem.
Oh, they sound like they're having fun.
I'm sure it's fine. It's going great.
It's going great. DJ, the Labyrinth, but specifically Percy Jackson.
Yep. It's alive.
Yep. Is it?
Yeah, it is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it lives specifically to confuse people.
Is it alive like
that.
Talos is alive, or...
No, it's alive and
Should
it's
ask.
got like a real ass like soul going around.
It's got a soul? Hold on.
It's got a soul that is tied to Daedalus' soul, which is why it disappears and dies and closes when Daedalus dies.
I guess. Is it?
They say it in the fucking... They say it. They say that it's alive in the book.
But there are things where it's like, oh, it's alive, but it's like, quote unquote, alive, and that is the way it behaves. But then it's like, it's alive, a la like, Percy or Annabeth
Well,
or
we know that
Grover are
it's alive, and it's maliciously trying to fucking force people to do shit. to go places, to do different things. It is malicious about about its intent. So it's alive in that aspect.
Okay. So do you think the Labyrinth, because you just said it's malicious, and I think that's canon, we could agree on that. It's malicious in where it's trying to, you said it's trying to make people do things. Is it not just trying to like fuck with people and confuse them, make them lost, or?
I mean, it might be a mix, right? But like, I don't know. It's just, it grows. Like, I don't know. Like, it's a fucking magic thing that like Rick has put some rules to. They said it, but Annabeth says that it's a malicious and it's trying to confuse them.
Yeah.
And then they end up in places that they should be anyway, right? So it's like...
Oh, that's a really good point. Because they end up at the ranch where Nico's at. And they needed to get Nico. And
they end up at the forge.
Yeah.
They end up all these other places where they needed to go eventually.
Grover
but the
and...
journey there is the Labyrinth just fucking with them the whole time.
Grover and Tyson end up close to Pan.
Yep.
Huh. So that's interesting. It is almost like and then they end up like Percy, and then they end up at even when they have Rachel, they end up at the under the tournament with Aeneas and Ethan Nakamura and Luke, and that needed to happen because of the role Ethan plays later on.
Yes.
So it's almost like maybe the Labyrinth isn't just like actually trying to kill people, but trying to send them where they need to go. But because that's not what people are entering expecting they need, they just are interpreting it as evil murder architecture.
Maybe.
Although it does kind of try. Well, I mean, okay.
Maybe it kept changing its like own structure whenever fucking Annabeth came up with something. So
Yeah, but like she was trying to find Daedalus, and that's not what the Labyrinth wanted her to do. It would seem.
Yeah, but even still, right? It would be like I'm gonna put my hand on follow the left wall, and then the left wall would disappear.
Yeah, left.
So
left wall. But I guess it is. I hadn't really considered how I was like, oh yeah, but they end up where they needed to go. I think I'm on pro. I don't think the Labyrinth's evil. I think people are just not happy that it doesn't want to work with them.
No, I still think it's evil.
You still think it
drives
it's evil.
people mad. Like, what the fuck are you on about?
Okay, that's another good point. Because they've got Chris Rodriguez, who the text says was driven mad by his time in the Labyrinth.
Yep.
I mean, but the Labyrinth is also like full of like monsters and shit. But that seems to be because they wandered in, not necessarily because the Labyrinth is creating anything.
I mean, it's creating itself constantly.
Yeah, and you wander around.
So
that's a good point.
It could have just as easily have let Chris Rodriguez out before he was driven mad.
Here's the thing. I just regularly forget about Chris Rodriguez, so,
That's fair. I totally forgot he was a thing until I listened to the book again.
Right. This guy.
Like,
this
guy.
Yeah,
That guy happened.
Yeah, okay. It gives us a nice Dionysus moment, so, I do like that.
Very true.
Good for Clarice, I guess. I'll have thoughts. We'll just put that pin back in that. We'll circle back to that later. So the Labyrinth is alive.
Yes.
Why?
To keep the Minotaur trapped in
No,
there.
I mean, okay, because there's a couple things throughout the series where the first it's like Daedalus says that it eventually created its own sentience. Feels a little bit like a la you made a computer program that's so sophisticated and eventually achieves sentience, a la Hyper AI. In Heroes of Olympus, Pasiphae claims that she is the one who put the magic into the Labyrinth to make it come to life. And then in Trials of Apollo, Apollo claims that he told Daedalus that it was a bad idea to give the Labyrinth sentience, which implies that it was Daedalus and not Pasiphae.
Well, it sounds like it's just the Labyrinth is just a mess and nobody knows exactly what happened. It's been 1,000 years.
I can buy that. I personally...
I'm actually like, as much as it's like, oh, Apollo doesn't know his children, I'm more inclined to believe the gods over most people because they do have relative perfect memory for their old lives, not who they fuck, but,
Jesus.
events that happened.
I see. I'm more inclined to think of, in that moment, Apollo was just like propping himself up, like giving himself credit that he does often, but maybe doesn't necessarily deserve. Whereas I think Pasiphae being a sorceress and stuff and canonically associated with the Labyrinth, Allah is the mother of the Minotaur. I'm inclined to believe her. And I like the idea of like, yeah, Daedalus created this like sophisticated, incredible architecture, but her magic is the thing that brought it to like this kind of like malicious, alive state.
Oh, so women can only create something evil then, huh?
According to Greek mythology.
Is that what you're saying,
according to Greek mythology, yes, absolutely. Also kind of according to these books sometimes. A
little bit.
Also because like Hazel, when she's able to tap into it, it is tapping into the magic. And not, the science, the architecture, the design of it is magic. And
it's because it is magic.
Because it's magic.
Right.
But Daedalus can't do magic.
Daedalus can swap his fucking soul to a goddamn automaton. That is magic, Darien.
I think it's like a super... I think it's like...
That's magic. He gets burned every time his soul gets put into that fucking thing. That is his soul.
We're going to circle back to the Daedalus we got a Daedalus episode later. We can't talk about it right now. We're talking about the Labyrinth. So, you may be surprised to know that in Greek mythology, the Labyrinth's not alive.
No.
The Labyrinth's big thing is the Minotaur myth, which we covered way, way back in, early episode. That was like our second or third episode. Goodness me.
It was quick. It was very quick.
So, crash course, just in case for some reason anybody's forgotten or you don't know. No disrespect. Once upon a time, you had King Minos. And he's like, I want to be king. And Poseidon's like, I can help with that. Minos, who's the son of Zeus, I want to be king. I can help with that. Here is a magnificent bull that somehow tells everybody you get to be king. You just have to sacrifice it to me. And Minos says, cool, he's king now. And he's like, actually, this bull is just too nice. I'm not going to sacrifice it to Poseidon. I'm going to keep it as a trophy. Poseidon's like, ooh, that doesn't work for me. So he calls up Aphrodite and is like, hey, I need to just really ruin this guy. And Aphrodite's like, I got it. So she makes Pasiphae fall in like lust with the bull. 9 or so months later, you have the Minotaur, which Minos is like, problem. I think I'm just going to have my top inventor, this really smart guy, Daedalus, build a labyrinth and I'll just put the Minotaur in it. And it's like, Minos, why? Well, because simultaneously his son had died while in Athens. And Minos shows up with a bunch of warships and is like, I am going to wage war on Athens unless you give me 7 maidens and 7 young men, and they get sacrificed to my fucking labyrinth every 7 to 9 years. And Athens says, okay.
Sounds about right.
So every 7 years or so, 14 young Athenians are sent to Crete, and they are just put inside the labyrinth, and the Minotaur kills them all. And then the young prince of Crete, I think he was a prince, I don't remember. We'll do a Theseus episode later on. He rolls up and he's like, I'll take care of the problem. And then with the help of Ariadne, Minos' daughter, he does.
Yeah.
But more on that later.
It's just insane. Just wild.
Mm-hmm. It's a lot and wild how this worked out, Minos. I mean, it doesn't work out, but like kind of convenient for you.
Yeah.
DJ, what is a labyrinth?
A labyrinth is a big maze. That's kind of how I always like viewed a labyrinth, but I don't know if there's like a different classification.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Will you be upset if you found out that was me trapping you? So I can say you were actually...
complicated, irregular network of passages or paths in which it is difficult to find one way, a maze.
Yes, that has become the definition of labyrinth as it has become synonymous with the maze.
Fine. Labyrinth. Original definition. The word labyrinth comes from Greek labyrinthos, and it describes any maze-like structure with a single path through it, which differentiates from a maze that has multiple paths. So it's got one path that you constantly walk. There's no dead ends.
Yes. So that's what I found very interesting when I started this, when I was like, okay, hold on. What exactly is the difference between a labyrinth and a maze? Because I definitely just thought labyrinth was like a fancy maze, but it's not.
It's just a very long hallway.
Yep. Basically, I would like to quote Franziska Wettenstein, who was a trainee gardener in 2016 at Rest Park, where they helped recreate a 300-year-old maze at the park. And in a blog post for English Heritage, they explained the difference. So the difference between mazes and labyrinths is that labyrinths have a single continuous path which leads to the center. And as long as you keep going forward, you will get there eventually. Mazes have multiple paths which branch off and will not necessarily lead to the center. So as you said, DJ, hallway.
Kind of a shitty maze.
That's
Also kind of a shitty prison. Like,
which is interesting. Where is it? Here it is. Okay. So, obviously, as I usually do, I started with Edith Hamilton's mythology, pulled up the Minotaur, the maze story, and this is how it's written. When the Minotaur was born, Minos did not kill him. He had Daedalus, a great architect and inventor, construct a place of confinement for him from which escape was impossible. Daedalus built the Labyrinth, famous throughout the world. Once inside, one could go endlessly along a twisting path without ever finding the exit. To this place, young Athenians were each time taken and left to the Minotaur. There was no possible way to escape. In whatever direction they ran, they might start running straight into the monster. If they stood still, he might any moment emerge from the maze. And then she used the word mage. But it's that concept of like, if you don't move, the creature will find you. If you go forward, you'll just walk right into him. There's no getting out.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I was trying to get like, well, why do we have this idea of it being a maze? Like that's different. You have depictions of it. There's the winding. There's the paths that turn off.
You can't get lost in a labyrinth.
That's right. Okay.
You either go forward or you go backwards.
Right. So in the exactly. So in the myth, they do get lost. Like Theseus, how Ariadne helps him in the original myth is she gives him a string that he ties to the entrance and then is able to wander. When he finds the Minotaur, he kills it, and it's using the string that he's able to get back out. But you'd think that shouldn't matter because...
Not in a traditional labyrinth, because it's literally just one way. It's also just like a shitty prison. Right?
Okay.
It's like, I'm going to trap the Minotaur.
Here's what I think.
What do you think? Bulls don't have the fine motor control to get through a labyrinth properly? Do you think they're just going to get turned around?
So
You think they got like signs posted up? It's like, hey, Minotaur other way, right? And then that's actually the exit. Is like exit this way, and it's actually towards the Minotaur.
So okay,
like they're trying to goof and gaff people who enter this fucking place after like 5 minutes if they don't have any object permanence.
Speaking of object permanence, I think we should check in on ourselves again.
Darien?
You guys?
Darien?
You guys?
Darien?
You guys?
Sounds like they're having a good time.
So, DJ, let me tell you real quick about Cretan coins. All right?
Is this the one that I saw with the maze on it?
Probably.
I looked up Labyrinth. It also, again, I decided to full screen it, and I completed it. And again, it is one path. Mm-hmm. There is no diverging paths.
Yes.
Like, this is a shitty maze.
Because it's not a maze. It's a labyrinth. There's a difference.
This is a shitty trap. This is just bad. This is just bad.
Okay, so let me...
What if they like? Are they like trap doors and then you fall through and that's how people get lost, maybe?
I think that would count as a maze because it has a branching path. Now it just goes straight down. It's not a labyrinth anymore.
God damn it.
Okay, let me just... For the history of so the labyrinth, its big thing in mythology is literally just the Minotaur story. Hercules doesn't get thrown in a labyrinth. Odysseus, it's really just Theseus, right? It's the Minotaur, it's the one thing.
Yeah.
But it was such a big deal to Crete, the iconography of the labyrinth. So the Cretan coin, the one that DJ's referring to, they had, their coins had these paths on them. And sometimes they would have the multi-branching paths. But this classical design, which was appearing as early as 430 BC, had this like traditional representation of the labyrinth.
Yeah.
Like just that one path straight through. It really wasn't until the Renaissance where mazes became like culturally more popular in Europe that
mazes are just better.
That Renaissance depiction.
They're actually better than this fucking labyrinth.
So Renaissance depiction. So hedge mazes became popular in the Renaissance, like middle age, late.
Hedge mazes are sick.
I love a hedge maze.
Love a good hedge maze.
I love a hedge maze. Make it roses. I love a hedge maze. But at that point in time, you see Renaissance artists doing like, Greek stories, doing the labyrinth as a hedge maze, as a maze. And at this point in time, much like how satyr and faun became like synonyms, even though they weren't, because of those kind of depictions, I think at this point in time, you get like the labyrinth and mazes becoming like, oh, these are meaning roughly the same thing, even though that wasn't originally the case. Here's my argument. I think that... Let me talk about why I think it's important that the story underlines that Daedalus was a great architect and an incredible inventor, right? It's not just... Minos could have had...
The walls were actually made up of those Magic Eye 3D pictures, so if you lost focus real quick, it looked like there was a door. That's what I'm arguing. I think part of this... So let's just dissect the story now. This is a thing that I love to do, and I don't think we do often on the podcast, but let's dissect the story, how it's structured, right? You have a king. Okay.
He wants to build a thing and put this beast inside the thing.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily have to name who created it. It doesn't really matter. He could have built it himself. He could have just had his soldiers build it. Like, it doesn't matter. But it does matter in this story because this story makes a point to name Daedalus a great architect, a great inventor, which I think folds into why the labyrinth, the Minotaur's labyrinth, the labyrinth of Crete, is so unique, right? Why it's just a path, DJ. You're right. You shouldn't be able to get lost into it. Yes, the Athenians are still going to get killed and eaten by the Minotaur, but like Theseus shouldn't have needed help getting out. It's just straight back and forth. I think the nature of Daedalus being such a great inventor is that he created a labyrinth in which you could get lost while going on a straight path, which you could get turned around, which you could get confused, despite the fact that it was only one way back or forth. And that's supposed to underline how great of an inventor, of an architect he was, that he did something that should have been impossible. And that's what makes this labyrinth so special, so unique, so renowned. Is it's doing something it's by nature not supposed to be able to do.
I do believe that. I was going through the pictures of Labyrinth, original definition, right? And it has come up with the inner ear bony labyrinth.
What did you just say to me?
Came up with the labyrinth of the inner ear.
Oh, just
the
like
cochlea and the utricle and the saccule.
Why are you
semicircular canals?
Why is this happening? Yeah, I guess it's a labyrinth.
Lymphatic duct.
I'm unhappy. I think I'm unhappy. Don't want to think about the ear. I don't.
Just thought it was goofy that it was coming up.
No, think about when your ear got infected and what all that looked like, DJ.
It was gross, but it wasn't an inner ear; it was the outer ear.
Oh, there's a difference. So. I see.
There is a difference. One is easier to deal with, which in fact is the outer ear. So imagine if I ever got an inner ear infection.
Big yikes. Okay.
I'd die.
So we love labyrinths. I love a labyrinth. I love a labyrinth of the story. God, I'm reading a story, I'm playing a game, I'm doing something, and now the character has to go through a labyrinth. Fuck yes. I want to see the challenges. I want to see the overcoming obstacles. Show me the growth.
Worst labyrinth I ever played in a game, fun fact, is actually Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and it bummed me out because wasn't a fucking labyrinth. It was, I mean,
Hold it. Was it a labyrinth?
It probably was like an original labyrinth, but the Minotaur had torn a path straight through every wall, so there was just a kind of a straight path to him.
So kind of, okay.
I don't know, like there was like branching paths outside of this crumbling wall path that I took to get to the Minotaur to fight him. But it was like, let me walk through the labyrinth.
It sounds like you got to walk through a labyrinth.
I walked literally through a labyrinth.
Here's the thing. Very interesting thing that I learned. Because part of the reason why I was so excited, like the labyrinth is a pretty short thing, and really it could have been in like the mini myth roundup episodes we do. But I love, like I just said, labyrinths in stories because of the symbolic nature of what the character's what it means to go through labyrinth. Yeah. This symbology is not found in the original Labyrinth story.
No.
In this like classical like Hellenistic Greece, labyrinth is it's basically a symbol of fear and confusion. Right? The young Athenians who are sent in there are sent to their doom. There's no overcoming it. And Theseus, even for all intents and purposes, like he doesn't really overcome the labyrinth, right? He overcomes the Minotaur, but the story isn't really about him figuring out how to navigate it, because the answer is literally just handed to him by someone else who's already done it. And we don't get anything from her, or really from Daedalus, regarding that element of the labyrinth. So it's just this, for most people who enter it, a horrific dead end. So I was curious as to how, through storytelling, because Labyrinth, all over the place, tons of places, how through storytelling have we gotten to this place for the Labyrinth, albeit usually we're in a crazy maze, not necessarily this traditional idea of a labyrinth. And so I Googled it. Obviously. I read up, I found some...
We have a world of information we have the entire world's information at our fingertips. Why wouldn't we take advantage of that?
Yes. And so, basically, how we get from Labyrinth as something that is fear and confusion to Labyrinth that's something that represents overcoming challenges to reach a higher plane, Christianity. How about that?
Classic.
So, I found a series of essays on the
Garden of Eden is actually a hedge maze.
It's a fucking hedge maze. No.
It's a hedge maze, and actually making your way out of it was the problem. You wanted to stay lost in God's light.
No, I'm all in favor of leaving that hedge maze. Don't tell that I said that shit. Okay. No. So, Loyola University Chicago is
God, that does not sound like a Chicago university. That doesn't sound like an American university, let alone Chicago.
I believe I looked this up when I was first looking up. I believe it's a Jesuit university specifically.
Jesuit.
You're not going to hear any shade from me. I just got my bachelor's from a Nazarene university. So, school is great. I found a series of essays on their on a medieval studies branch of their website that is literally labyrinths, their origin and development. I'm talking about how the labyrinth is one of the oldest symbols of mankind, and how it went from this representation of fear to a representation of redemption, essentially. So there's there's not a direct straight line that goes from like labyrinth meaning this thing to labyrinth meaning the next thing, but there are a couple facets that would kind of converge together to create this notion. So one of it being how often you get these Renaissance depictions of Theseus and the Minotaur in the labyrinth, but oftentimes it was simultaneously done...
Paired together with Michelangelo defeating...
Essentially, yes. You would have them paired with...
Or Michael, not Michael.
Like the Archangel Michael. The Ninja Turtle.
No, I'm talking about the Ninja Turtle and Michelangelo with his nunchucks and all kicking Satan's ass. All right?
Mike, you would. I don't think... I feel like Raph would be more... I'm going to go fight Satan, but... Anyway, so yes, exactly that. You'd get them paired with like the double symbology from these Christian artists doing these massive works, often for the church. So Theseus and the Minotaur became essentially like symbolic in these works for Jesus overcoming Satan, essentially. Mm-hmm. You would also at the same time see in Rome... The images of the labyrinth would start to appear in churches. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of part of that. The reason why Christmas, like, as we know it, has a lot of, like, traditions that go back to, like, Celtic pagans, maybe not necessarily Celtic, but, like, early paganism of Western Europe and Rome and stuff, is because early Christianity was like, let's also do this so we can get these people to be like, hey, we do that too. You should come worship our God instead, though. So you'd see a lot of labyrinth was part of the symbolism of certain cults throughout Rome. And so certain churches would start to really adopt those as kind of that same idea. There is specifically a labyrinth of Saint Reparata, sure. It was very Roman in that it had a phrase inside of it that I'm going to try to pronounce. Sancta Escalia. I'm so sorry. Not that.
Sancta Escalia?
It's closer. And it is essentially a palindrome in Latin, forward and backwards, vertical, horizontally. And it means what does it mean? Oh, Holy Church, essentially. Mm-hmm. And inside the writing, up and down, the way it's written, I can show you, DJ. I'll put a link to this in the description.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So in addition to the labyrinth always going around it, you have this phrase, which is a very like Roman, every direction it means the same thing. And so with this really impressive symbol, that started to separate the labyrinth from the Greek story into being more wholly part of like Christian iconography of achieving that the perceived higher level of salvation of knowledge.
Right on.
Anyway, you can find a lot of these kind of labyrinths in like northern France and like northern and central Italy, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's basically how the symbolism of the labyrinth shifted so much. And I just thought that was really interesting and something that it's different. The way we view the labyrinth now is very different than the way the labyrinth appeared in Greek mythology. And I don't think we can really discuss.
There's a lot of things that are like different the way we view them now versus 3,000 years ago, you know?
Yeah. But I meant like, and with the purposes of our show, how we like to analyze in modern pop culture, I wanted to talk about how we swung so differently from like what the labyrinth did.
Yeah.
It's like function in this original story versus the way labyrinthine like mazes usually, but like the labyrinth functions now and how that change happened. So that's just what I wanted to go through, and I think that's really interesting.
It's a lot of fun.
So DJ,
What's
labyrinths. I want to just real quick. When I was doing a refresher touch, because I like to go to TV tropes and like analyze like tropes and themes that you find in these kind of things there. I was on the Labyrinth page. I don't remember what the trope is called specifically, but there are, when you look at the examples, they are broken down into like anime, Western animation, Western comic books, manga, video games, those kind of things.
Uh-huh.
On the Labyrinth's list of examples, there are first 2 subsects that I had actually never seen before. Video game examples, non-video game examples. And then within the video game examples, you're divided within by different types of video games. So Labyrinth, primarily video game. DJ, I'm going to have you start for that reason.
Okay. I mean, there are a few, right? The one of probably that everybody knows is actually Lost Woods from The Legend of Zelda.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes for like almost every Zelda game that has the Lost Woods. There is like just a maze within it. You'll go in one door and then there'll be like 3 branching paths. And this is for at least like, what is it? A Link to the Past, A Link Between Worlds, and Ocarina of Time. There's even one in Majora's Mask and another game that I'm blanking on. I know that there are more, but these ones are traditionally like this, how I'm about to explain it, where it's like you go through one door, there are 3 branching paths, you pick one, and it'll like open up into 3 more paths that you have to choose. If you choose the wrong, you just end up at the entrance again. In Breath of the Wild, they do it a little differently. You got to find your way through just thick fog, and if you fail, you just end up at the entrance.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's a little rough. The one that I was grinning at earlier is actually the Stanley Parable.
Oh.
The Office from that. And I wouldn't have thought of it myself to be like, yeah, Labyrinth. But when you play the game, you're like, oh yeah, absolutely. You're going through, it's just a fucking maze of choices and just like a general actual maze. Mm-hmm. It's just a good time.
I was going to say, while we were talking about it, I was thinking just now that I'm like, oh, I think Hades is kind of this traditional labyrinth. And that, I mean, you can't get lost and end up back at the beginning. There is just literally one path that's going to lead you forward and out if you don't die. But it's like, oh, there are branching pathways, but not really. Because even if you go take a different room, you're still eventually going to get out. So that feels like straightforward labyrinth a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's not like one, but you're not going to the center. I think that's the key of it, is that the labyrinth leads you to the center of it.
Yeah. I think there's a game that I think you'd like to watch at least somebody play, Darren, called Phantom Abyss.
Ooh.
and you play as like an Indiana Jones-esque explorer with your whip and your hat. And
Gotta have the whip and the hats.
Yeah, you're running through a Mayan Aztec-looking temple, avoiding traps and avoiding the god that haunts these halls.
Oh, no.
It's a ton of fun. And there's one god that's just better to deal with and more fun than like all the rest. Because there are 3 that you don't get to choose. They're random because that's how this game is, right? Mm-hmm. But there are 3. One of them is the Eye of Destruction. He shows up, he stares at you, and then he shoots a big laser from his eye. The other one is the Trickster God. I don't remember what his name is. And he throws poison orbs at you. And then this last one, he looks like Uka Uka from Crash Bandicoot. The evil mask.
Oh, shit, yeah. Yeah.
Not Aku Aku, Uka Uka.
Yes.
And he just chases after you.
That's scary. I don't like it.
Constantly.
No, I don't like
it. He's surrounded by drums that get louder when he gets closer. Jumanji-ass drums.
Not Jumanji drums.
So much more fun to deal with than the rest because you can get caught up with the traps that are happening. And as you progress, they get stronger, right? Like the eye will shoot more frequently. The trickster god will throw out more orbs. He just gets faster.
No,
keeps going and just keeps fucking going for you. And it's so much fun and so stressful. And I've had more fun playing against him than the other 2. I don't have a lot of like traditional labyrinths, right? That one path. Unless we can go down that, you know how if we can say Hades is a traditional labyrinth, then so is like every other roguelike.
Yeah,
right?
I'm backing off on that because I think traditional labyrinth has got to be to the center of the thing, and you're distinctly not going to the center. So I'm actually going to
say
take that back.
Binding of Isaac would probably be like something similar, but you are going down into like the center of your psyche, given the meta context of the game. Okay. Yeah.
Center of the psyche works. Did you have fun when you end up in a maze in a labyrinth? I would in a video game. I would guess yes, because you were very disappointed that Odyssey didn't let you actually navigate a maze. But I'm just curious.
If I'm stoked to see one at first, but if it's not done well, I'll hate it.
That makes sense.
I'll actively be like, hey, this is the worst, guys. You guys made the worst maze I've ever been in. Mm-hmm. There's not a lot.
Yeah, what makes a maze in the game good?
Not impossible to navigate, right? Mm-hmm. Providing, like, I don't know, some sort of sense of exploration. Because, like, a good maze... Now, I haven't played this, Darren, but you actually have. The Labyrinth of Ice, Kingdom Hearts 3.
Ah, fuck!
Why don't you tell me about the Labyrinth of Ice?
Let me tell you about the Labyrinth of Ice. Okay, you know what? I fucking hate that. Okay, Labyrinth of Ice. I didn't know we were calling it that.
That's what it's called.
Okay, putting aside the meta issues I have with the Labyrinth of Ice in Kingdom Hearts 3, that was clearly supposed to be the inside of Elsa's castle, but instead they decided, never mind, Larxene, who has electricity powers, will just make this instead. And now you're going down, except you're going up. Bullshit. Okay. That's the biggest problem with the castle, is that the Labyrinth of Ice, is that it does not make sense. You are clearly going up. You're going higher, right? It is like you are trying to climb out, but that is not the way the labyrinth is like presented. Mm-hmm. Like you feel like you're going up above into the air, but you're just going down and then climbing back up. It is confusing, but it's not a labyrinth. Like, you're just going from room to room. It's not a labyrinth any more than like San Francisco, or I would say goddamn Neverland is a little bit more of a labyrinth in that I'm just going to get lost.
I get lost so frequently in Neverland. We're talking about Kingdom Hearts 1, right?
Yeah, Wonderland, not Neverland.
Yeah,
but it's
Kingdom Hearts 1 is fucking.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, it is frustrating. I think I remember that one just being annoying because it was weirdly difficult to navigate because I couldn't distinguish what level I was on. Like, there are 3 levels you're climbing up, and you can get there, and you know you got to a new level, but it's really easy to end up back down just because you didn't realize. And I guess that's supposed to make it good, but I didn't have fun.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, so the answer is bad. But
Bad
the Frozen
Labyrinth.
level may be one of the worst levels of any Kingdom Hearts game. And just a side note, I love Frozen. And I was actually really excited for Frozen. It's not me disliking Frozen as a property. I was super excited to have Sora hang out with Elsa and Anna. Like, for reals. That level is bad.
Yeah, fair. Now, I would say a good labyrinth is, in fact, the Safari Maze from Pokemon.
Oh.
Because that, while windy and you're on a bit of a time crunch, you get to the end, you get a pretty good reward. And there is a definitive end. In the first game, in like Fire Red and like the Kanto region, you get Surf. That's a great reward.
Nice.
It's a great ability, and you get to surf on water with it. I don't know about the other ones.
I don't have a lot of Labyrinth examples. Like, from me personally interacting.
Yeah.
I mean, there's that Kingdom Hearts one, but I did not even clock that as meant to be a labyrinth, so.
There is one, actually. I wouldn't... It's not a labyrinth, again, in traditional terms. It's a maze.
Yeah, we're doing mazes now.
Yeah. It's in the game. I'm pretty sure it's We Were Here 2. The reason I say pretty sure is because there are 4 of those games. They're all called We Were Here with something, right? The first one's We Were Here. The next one's We Were Here 2. The third one's We Were Here Together. The most recent one is We Were Here Forever. And they're all brilliant. It's like an asymmetrical puzzle game that you play with a friend. And they're solving puzzles on their end while you're solving puzzles on your end. And sometimes you got to work together to solve the puzzles. It's great. One of the points is one person has like a aerial view of what's going on like below of like this arena. The other one's on the floor. And if you can already tell where I'm going with this, a maze pops up and then the person up top has to guide the person on bottom through it.
That sounds fun.
Now, I was the person on top first, and so I guided my friend through it. And we liked to, after we finish it one way, we swap and then go through it again.
Yeah.
To get, like, achievements or whatever, because it's fun. When it got to that point, I'm like, hey, I remember the shit. So I just fucking did it.
Yeah, so that it doesn't change up the maze. You just I actually know how to do this. Hold on.
There are 3 different sets of 3, right? And one of them I had down to such a science that the dude was just sitting there watching me as I ran through this fucking maze.
Like, I don't need your help.
And I don't need the help.
More than you.
I know what's going on here. Don't worry about it. And he's like, bro, your brain is fucking wild. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yes. It's a very DJ thing to do. I memorized the maze. Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it.
So the Labyrinth with David Bowie.
Yeah, that is a thing I've never seen.
My God, I know. You mentioned that the other day when we were discussing this episode, and I'm just shocked. I'm floored. I'm taken aback. Yeah. I don't think I own it anymore, which is a bummer. We just have to talk about it. It's hard to talk about. It's okay. Do you know what it's about?
No.
Oh, shit. Okay.
People explain it, and I'm like, what the fuck is even happening in this game? This sounds incomprehensible.
Basically, this girl, Sarah, it's really a metaphor for growing up, is really what it's about. She is very into her fairy tale worlds and stuff, and into this books about the Goblin King and all these things, adventures, fantasy stuff. And her dad and her stepmom make her babysit her little brother, her half brother Toby. He's maybe 1 year old, not very old yet. Still just a straight up baby. And she's very upset. She's like, oh, my stepmother's so mean. And it's not that unreasonable to be like, you're 16. Will you watch your brother, please? But yeah, I digress. But she recites this whole, I wish, she's from her books, I wish you would be taken. I wish the Goblin King would come and take you away. And so he does. So the Goblin King, Jareth, played by David Bowie, takes this baby away to his goblin kingdom in the center of the labyrinth. And so Sarah has, is it 3 days? She's X amount of time to navigate the labyrinth and rescue her brother before he will be turned into a goblin himself, and she'll never be able to get him back.
Wild.
And it's great, largely because it is a product of the Henson Company. So it's puppets. It's Muppets. They're just fucking puppeteering and Muppets, and the sets are wild.
Practical
and the
effects.
songs are
Practical effects
fucking
I will always
crazy.
fucking love much more.
It's baffling,
Like,
and it's
the
a
original
nightmare.
Star Wars is a product of the Henson Company.
It is shocking. It is the movie. Just there are points where it is incomprehensible, and you're just like, "Whoa, there's a lot going on in this dance scene between David Bowie and this teenager. What the fuck?" But it's a product of Sarah and what she's coping with, kind of on this cusp of like adulthood and trying to figure out like what is that.
Yeah.
If you're looking at like the symbolism, but it's just like the adventure shit is really good too, and it's fun, and she has to like navigate the labyrinth, right? Which is really like, there's never really a point where she takes a wrong turn, but there are a lot of traps and obstacles that are just really trying to slow her down.
Yeah.
So she has to get to the center of the maze and claim her little brother back. And it's fun. It's just fun and weird. Like, honestly. It's one of those cult films, but it is a solid work. I enjoy it immensely. But it is where I would think is a great example of your hero going through the maze, trying to claim something, trying to overcome these obstacles and gain a better understanding of themselves, reach like new knowledge and stuff, and she learns to be more thoughtful, less bragging, more patient, more considerate of the way she speaks of her words, and just like a little bit more into herself, a little bit more confident about stepping into this next phase of her life.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. We gotta talk about the Labyrinth.
Pan's Labyrinth.
Have never seen it.
Horror movie.
Am scared.
Never seen it either.
Okay, we can't talk about it.
Wild as shit. I want to read the synopsis for it at least.
Okay, well, hold on. Let's finish the episode, and then you can go on Wikipedia and read
I don't know what
synopses.
you're talking about. Here we go.
What?
In a fairy tale, Princess Moana, whose father is the king of the underworld, visits the human world, where the sunlight binds her and erases her memory. What the fuck? She becomes immortal and dies. The king built a labyrinth to act as a portal. Okay, so the labyrinth in this is essentially like the labyrinth in specifically Trials of Apollo, where he has control over it and he can go anywhere in the world with it.
Huh.
Interesting.
This is perplexing. Someone who's seen the movie should tell us if we should watch it. You'll probably say yes, and I still won't watch it, so thank you for your time. I got one more. I haven't read this one, but it is related to the Sandman, so I'm counting it. Because sometimes, not often, but sometimes, the Endless, the various characters from the Sandman, will appear in superhero DC Comics adventures. Like, one of my favorite art of Death of the Endless is actually from a Lex Luthor story. So
Nice.
But Destiny, who is one of the Endless, he is Dream's older brother. Destiny, Death, Dream. Yes.
Yeah.
He is literally Destiny itself. He lives in like his realm is called the Garden of Forking Waves. Forking Ways. And essentially his like home is at the center of this really intricate maze, described as a fluctuating landscape which warps four-dimensional space, traversed by forking paths where trespassers are doomed to wander around until their deaths. And apparently, in some story, Supergirl and Lobo need to navigate their way out of the garden it's called the Lords of Luck storyline. And they were able to navigate it because apparently, I don't know anything about Lobo, but apparently this dude's got a superpower that lets him track down people anywhere in the universe. So he just focused on finding Destiny and was able to like avoid all the things that were distracting him and got him right through. But also apparently Destiny wanted to meet them, so didn't actively try to like prevent them from getting in. So it's like a twofer. And I thought that was cool.
Nice.
I don't know why, or what's going on, or anything else, but I'm always fascinated when the endless universe like meets the DC Comics because it's really not supposed to.
It'll happen. The Invincible universe met with the Marvel Comics very briefly.
Well, I mean, okay, because the Sandman...
And DC, actually, for that matter.
Okay, so Neil Gaiman wrote these Sandman comics, right? It was DC wanted a kind of a reboot of their Sandman story from like the 40s, essentially. And so originally it was part of the DC world, DC Comics proper, which is why like Constantine and Martian Manhunter are literally show up in the first 5 arcs, and we see like Batman and Robin like in description flashbacks, even though they're not actually in the story. But it's really dark. It's a horror thing. And they eventually actually started a new line DC did called Vertigo, in which they moved it into Vertigo so it was no longer considered the same universe as like Justice League and stuff. And since then Vertigo has been shut down and is now part of their Black Label, which is kind of why a couple years back you had this endless characters appearing in this big old Batman, what was it called? Dark Knight's Metal, which is an arc. And Dream appears in like the very last pages of issue 1. So, of course, I got on board with that. And that did not pay off whatsoever. I was pretty fucking pissed I wasted my time. I'm not pleased with that bait and switch bullshit.
Well, why not?
Because I wanted to see the endless characters interact with like Batman characters, and then they didn't do it. They didn't show up like a kid.
Oh, that's
like, why the fuck did you do this?
Understandable. I'd be pretty mad about it too.
So it was like I was trapped in a labyrinth of storytelling, and I didn't have fun.
Rough. Hate to see it.
You hate to see it. I think, DJ, unless you've got another Labyrinth example you really want to dive into.
The last Labyrinth I got is actually... It calls itself a Labyrinth. It's not really. It's It's in the game Remnant from the Ashes.
Okay.
It's a very fun game, a little Souls-esque. I'm not going to call it really. It's not a Souls game because it's not made by From Software, right?
Okay.
But it's Souls-esque in how it plays and how it's like structured. But there's a point where you can go and it's like, oh, you can explore a labyrinth, and what it does is it sets your character to bare bones equipment, and then you got to start out and grind your way up through it. And you go through, and every time you complete a level, it'll take you to a new world. And it's a lot of fun. It's a good time. It's a labyrinth, right?
It's a labyrinth. Okay. Yeah. We should probably check in on ourselves one more time.
Run. Just run. Go.
Keep running.
Go.
Go,
Run.
go,
Go.
Davis,
Go. Go.
I'm excited. DJ, you and I get to go in our own corn maze labyrinth adventure, and I think that'll be a good time.
It sounds like something happened later.
That is going to be it for this episode.
Right on. I mean, I got nothing more to talk about, so.
Yeah. Thank you all so much for listening. It is always a blast, honestly. I think we're going to have the next couple episodes will be labyrinth-themed, kind of, with topics, but
yeah,
I think that'll be good. This is the first episode of November. So getting into that season, I'm going to do this moment just real quick to pitch our Patreon, which we definitely have mentioned before.
We do. We have it. We love it. We put a lot of work into it. We got a surprise coming for December.
December, we have something ambitious.
Something big.
Planned for our patrons, and if you would like to go check it out, make sure you swing by. It's patreon.com/Muses of Mythology. You're going to want to be, I think it's our camp counselor tier. No, we changed the name of it.
I actually kind of want to make it to where they can listen to the first. Like the first one gets everybody, so it's a taste, right? So $1 tier, you'll get the first episode. But if you want to listen to more, you'll have to be a camp counselor.
Yes. So there'll be, we'll talk more into that once it is December. We'll reveal what we're doing over there. But there is going to be, at this moment in time, if you are a patron at a $5 tier or higher, you get to enjoy Muses of Mythology content every single week. And then in December, you'll get to enjoy what I think is going to be over half of all the episodes we will have released in this year are going to come out in December on the Patreon. So if that sounds fun to you, and you want to hear the labor of our insanity,
Very excited. I came up with the idea.
never mind that we haven't even released an October episode just yet.
I know, right?
It's fine.
It'll be fine. It'll be fine. We have November already. We already know exactly what we're doing for November, and
We know.
record it later.
It'll be great. It just, someone got sick. It was me.
I got sick
But-
too. It wasn't just you.
We all got sick.
I was ill.
So, but yeah, that is what's going on the Patreon. It's also just a really wonderful project. It's kind of just, we need to do a little bit more because we like working on this. It's a great way if you love the show, you want more content, or you want to help us keep making more going weekly, which is something we love to do eventually.
Yeah.
I guess we're actually if we get 2 more patrons, we get to release buttons for everybody. So
Yes, we have that as a stretch goal. It's just 2 patrons, and we'd love to get you guys buttons. Honestly,
yep, all patrons will
have
get
them.
buttons.
We love them.
And then
you guys
everyone
get
else will be able
buttons.
to buy buttons.
Yes, we also have merch.
We do have
I don't
merch.
know.
Oh,
You'll have to plug our merch.
the merch will be at musesofmythology.com/merch. Patreon is patreon.com/musesofmythology. Yeah, we're just asking for money today, I think.
We just want some money.
But it's also like our patrons, every patron gets to be a part of the Discord channel, and that's super fun because I am currently just incredibly envious of the Crystal Con Man, who has been sharing photos of their various outings recently because they live in the hemisphere that gets to be in summertime. It's November, which means it's going to be fucking wintertime. It's cold. It's already snowed.
I don't know what
Meanwhile,
you're talking about. That is absolutely magnificent. We live in a winter wonderland. I'm very excited for a white Christmas. And I'll have a blue Christmas if you guys do not join us over on the Patreon for our Christmas special.
Huzzah! That's not going to get much better than that. Thank you all so much for listening. We will be back in your ears on Tuesday, November 22nd to talk about Ariadne. But until next time, don't be like Zeus.
Don't be like Zeus.
Muses of Mythology is created and hosted by Darien and DJ Smartt. It's edited by Darien Smartt. The show is produced by Darien and DJ Smartt, as well as
Tim O'Connor.
The Crystal Con Man.
Our music is Athens Festival by Martin Hain. And our cover art is by Audrey Miller. You can find her on Instagram at bombshellnutshellart.
Want more Muses of Mythology? Support the show on Patreon. Just $1 gets you exclusive bonus content. Get more at patreon.com/Muses of Mythology.
You can also support the show by leaving a review at lovethepodcast.com/Muses of Mythology. Or tell a friend why you love the show.
Don't forget to check out all of our episodes and episode transcripts at musesofmythology.com.
Thanks for listening.